I be that more you gon' remember. Be more. I be that more you gon' remember. Nap town. I be that more you gon' remember. Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number. I be that more you gon' remember. LA. I be that more you gon' remember. New York. I be that more you gon' remember. Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number.
To another edition of Moorish World TV. I am your host, Brother Tahaka Bay. Today, we are going to do something that is groundbreaking. What is groundbreaking is we're going to be talking to the Supreme Grand Sheik, no other, here in Baltimore, our brother, Sheik Clarence Prather L. Now, let me tell you something. This has been a long time coming. And when I mean a long time coming, I've been doing this about 4 years, and we have been talking about doing this interview. So today, it finally happens. We had to go back just a little bit with your brother. Let me take you back for a second. Back in 1989, I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America. By the way, the Moorish Science Temple of America Communications Office. Now, I might have butchered that a little bit, but it was under the leadership of Hayes Sample Bay. And being in the ranks of Hayes Sample Bay, it taught me to stand on what you say you believe in, and furthermore, stand on what you say you have faith in. The teachings was predicated upon the teachings of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I make no apology. This was the strongest Moors that stepped foot in the Moorish paradigm. And today here in Baltimore, that footprint has never changed. And I'm talking about the footprint of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, as well as Richardson Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But my experience was with Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And honor to all of the Moors here in Baltimore. There's brothers and sisters throughout Baltimore that represent the thought what people like to call the resurrection. It will be clarified today that the resurrection is a book. Make no mistake about that, but many people would like to affectionately say, oh, the resurrection temple, the resurrection Moors, but it will be clarified today. But there's many people here in Baltimore that represent Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I honor each and every one of them. All the Johnson Bays, we can go on and talk about that forever, you know. But today we're going to be talking to Sheik Clarence Prather L, who, and I say L, some say L, tomato. But the point of the matter is that the work that has been done here in Baltimore is unmistakable. You can see this brother hand in all the work as it relates to Moorish, as it relates to civics, as it relates to bringing up the morale within the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I tell my wife all the time, I say, you know what? I say, one thing about the brothers over there and sisters over there on Milton Avenue, I say they are some of the most profound Moors as it relates to teaching, but also bigger than that, as we talked about in our Holy Day meeting last night. That the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said the attainment of virtue is the highest accomplishment, and let me paraphrase if you will, but the virtue that we see here on 1155 Milton Avenue, I have yet to see it to be duplicated. But that's just me. Don't get mad. That's just me. And I tell my wife that all the time. But with that being said, I'd like to introduce you to our brother, our friend, Sheik Clarence Prather L. Allow him to introduce himself. Brother, would you come forth and introduce yourself to the Moorish World TV audience before we get into this conversation? Islam? Islam.
First, I would just like to praise Almighty God and Allah, and honor to the Prophet. I would like to go and stand on to the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I would like to go and stand on to you, brother, my great Sheik Tahaka Bay, for having the courage enough for my portion of the truth. Hopefully, we can do what in our hearts and our minds for the Moorish Science Temple of America, for our people, that are in dire need of what it is that we have. I am Sheik CLARENCE PRATHER, a member of the Moorish Temple of America. I am a servant of Almighty God Allah, and as we all know, that we must to serve Allah, we must serve our near kin, those who are no kin, the stranger at our gate, the foe, the sick, to do us harm. And that takes a whole lot to be a servant of Allah. But I am Sheik CLARENCE PRATHER, I am a servant of Allah. And I'm here to, I'm so honored to be with the brother Taha Bey, because we're talking about an effort for us to dispel some myths about the things that are going on, how people are climbing up on the shoulders of others. You know, they say that the prophet says that the wise man falls by climbing, because he's climbing on my shoulders and they're not realizing that my shoulders become weak and thus they fall. So we're here to clear up this myths like that in the hope that we can come together. You know, I do give this man, this Mo standing right here, I think in one of his songs he says, you're gonna know this brother forever, Taha Bey forever.
Yeah, I'll be the more you gonna
Oh,
remember.
yeah, I'll be the more you gonna remember, Taha Bey forever, something like that. I enjoy that, Mo, because, you know, this is what we need. You know, people to have courage, you know, for the truth, theirs as well as mine, and the next person to get this job done. And I appreciate you for that type of courage, Mo, because a lot of people may not have or not exhibiting, not demonstrating the strength, you know, to hear your truth as well as I hear yours. And I'm here to talk about Timothy Dingle. I'm here to talk about John Gibbons. I'm here to talk about the Prophet Noble Drelly. I'm here to answer any questions that I possibly can. And if I don't know, please respect the fact that I don't, that I tell you that I don't
Praise
know.
the Lord.
And with that said, well, again, I want to thank you.
It's love. It's love. So let's start off talking about your history in the Moorish Temple of America. When were you introduced what year were you introduced into the Moorish Temple of America?
I came in to the organization Moorish Temple of America the week of January 8th, 1968. And I've been a member ever since every Friday, Sunday, and as I got older in the Moorish Temple of America, Wednesdays and Thursdays and any other day required since 1968. Though I did fall one time and bump my head, and as a result of bumping that head, it did not stop me from attending my meetings in the Moorish Temple of America. Though I had a big lump on my head, I still came to my meetings. So it's been 1968, Mo, that I've been holding down, trying to get to this point.
Did you initially join the Moorish Temple of America under the leadership of Timothy Dingle?
Yes, Mo. The influence, not directly under him at that time, but his sheiks, his members. There was the Moors were having a parade or a talk in one of the parks near my home in Washington, D.C. And of course, you know me, I'm going down there with me and my buddies. We're going down to check out the women. We weren't going down and expecting what we got. Right. But when we get down there, the women were looking all virtuous and long garbs and gowns and turbans on. And man, for one thing, that threw me for a trip. But just before I could turn and walk away, one of the brothers grabbed me, Mo. He grabbed me and he got to talking. I'm hearing this man, but I didn't understand a word he said. He was talking as plain as you and I are talking now. Right. But my mind, at the age of 18, was not familiar with the language of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, having a nationality, that I was not a Negro, black, or because of course, I come through the Mamas, I come through the Pamphlet meeting. I used to attend their meetings, and I come to all the Black Power situation, Black Man Development Center. I come to all of those up until 1968 when I ran to the Prophet Noble Drelly. And it was a prophet, it was one of the brothers that spoke with me, invited me out to a meeting. I went on Bonita Vista Terrace in Southeast Washington, D.C. And I went there, and from that point on, I came to Baltimore, and I've been here ever since.
What was it about what the brother said, if you can remember anything that he said as you come back that made you want to say, you know what, I really don't get what you're saying, but I'm getting something. What was that you were getting?
Brother, you put me on the spot because as I'm sitting here right now, since 1968, since hearing this, I still am not able to hear anything coming from this brother standing before me other than I couldn't understand anything. But it wasn't until I actually sit in the organization of the Moorish Temple of America that the name of Timothy Dingle, the name of Prophet Noble Drelly, started to burn the drawers.
Okay.
I started hearing Allah, 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 Allah. Then I started hearing Noble Drelly, Noble Drelly. Then I started hearing Timothy Dingle, Timothy Dingle. And as I heard these things, the drawers were just burned off in my mind and the scabs were moved from my eyes.
What temple did you join? You was in D.C.?
Yes, sir.
Were you familiar with our brother in D.C. Who came from, I think he came from Chicago, German Bay?
Dr. R. German Bay, his subordinate temple was upon Georgia Avenue, 5726, Georgia Avenue, under the Grand Sheik William Porter Ill. I was very, very, very familiar with them, attended their meetings up until the times that they had passed on. Yes, I was very familiar with them.
Okay. So, could you take us back to the time when German Bay, if you will, because I want to give people some perspective. German Bay came from Chicago, is my understanding. He came from Chicago, originally from the Eastern Shore. He comes from Chicago, being a part of Grand Major Temple, Moorish Temple of America, and he comes here and he established. Maybe you can help us with this. Did he establish with Timothy Dingle in the beginning, or did Timothy Dingle establish with him? How did that work out?
Dr. R. German Bay, Prince of Peace, was the Grand Sheik, was a governor, as a matter of fact. He in the state of Maryland. He came through, not with, but came through the Cook Bay brothers. When the Prophet Noble Drelly came in 1925, Dr. R. German Bay, as well as Richardson Dingle were a part of that meeting here in Baltimore. And this is his history here in Baltimore. So it wasn't, and Timothy Dingle didn't come into move until 1940. But Richardson Dingle was with the Prophet Noble Drelly. There are pictures to this effect. Dr. R. German Bay was with the Prophet Noble Drelly. There are pictures to this effect. And now see if good.
Well, I actually have German Bay on the roster, but I have yet to see anything with Richardson Dingle. But nevertheless, my thing is I want to try to build the concept so people can get the concept that Timothy Dingle in relations to German Bay, because in the history of the Moorish Temple of America here in Baltimore, many people could go online and you can see the pictures of the parade, and they say, well, that's German Bay and those Moors. And then you see, you have some pictures where you can see Timothy Dingle and the Moors. They're up in Chicago at the convention, and you see these, and they're hard to decipher. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lay the foundation so people can know how in the era of time of Timothy Dingle as well as German Bay, how did the Moorish Temple of America come back to Baltimore? Because it seemed like there was a dead spell or a dry spell from the time of the Prophet when Cook Bay brothers was here until German Bay returned.
And Mo, that's exactly right, because there's a prophecy that the Prophet Noble Drelly says that, you know, people are going to think that the movement has simply vanished off the face of the earth. And in fact, it almost did, because there were Moors here in Baltimore during my coming up, but they were not Moors publicly. You know, they wore their garb from their they wore their garbs, they got their garbs, they went to the temple, they put their garb on. When they left the temple, they took their garbs out. Moors, we didn't know Moors were here. But on the same hand, Dr. R. German Bay, Richardson Dingle, Timothy Dingle, they required us to wear our garb. They require us to wear our fezes 24/7. This is why you'll see in some of the movements, the sisters were wearing their turbans all day, because we were required. And if we didn't have on affairs, we would either be bald-headed, and under Dr. R. German Bay, Prince of Peace's movement, or his membership, they were required to have the tie bush or the other headdress, but they were always required to be in God, and they were always required to have some type of identification. So the movement did slow down, it did close up, because Moors weren't practicing the way that we were supposed to practice. Go out there to the people, be with the people, not just pass through the people, but actually be with them more. And a lot of them didn't do it more. And Timothy Dingle is one of the Moors that stood strong in doing this. Richardson Dingle was another one of the Moors that was strong in doing these things. You heard there wasn't about us, Washington, D.C., well, all you heard was the Prince of Peace and William Porter Hill. You came to Baltimore, if you came to Maryland, all you heard was Timothy Dingle, Richardson Dingle, and Dr. R. German Bay. There were no others that were in the public. That's right. That were in the public trying to teach our people to uplift fallen humanity.
Did there come a time where there was any, and this I don't know, did there come a time that R. German Bay and Timothy Dingle parted ways?
There came many times when they disagreed. Okay. But the one thing that I say here today and fault them for is for not doing it behind closed doors. Because Timothy Dingle, Richardson Dingle, Dr. R. German Bay were on the telephone all hours of the night, ironing out their problems. But it was the members that overheard these things. This is why when I today go into challenges, go into meetings, I require that people that don't have the strength of mind that they should have to withstand this stuff because they're in love with you, because they're in love with me, because they're in love with the next party. If it just so happens that this party get to the point where he can tell me authoritatively to sit down and not sit down, that means that implies that he beat me up. But the members back there didn't see it that way. They became ornery, they became selfish, they became hateful because they saw me and you, for example, argue, fight, and debate, but they don't see the last result. They don't see how Timothy Dingle used to tell us how I just got off the phone with my brother. I just got off the phone with Prince of Peace, and we worked this thing out, and we did this, and I asked him to do. They don't see that, like you said earlier, things that they don't see. But it was the Indians. We got to the point that we had to say that it's the Indians, our membership, that see these things, and they go out there and encourage, and it gets out of hand. One man used to teach that it was like a bag of feathers. You know, you take a bag of pillowcase and you take all the feathers out, they fly all over everywhere. You can sweep up some, but you're not gonna get them all. And the ones that we didn't get is what has plagued the Moorish Science membership, leadership, up until this very day.
At one time, was the Moorish Science Temple of America, I see when we walk into 1155 Milton Avenue, we see Moorish Science Temple of America. And as I mentioned earlier, we affectionately called ourselves Resurrection. We resurrection. We represent the resurrection. Was the Moorish Science Temple of America ever known to the public as the Resurrection?
Yes.
Or Resurrection Moorish Science Temple of America?
Yes, Mo, it was. It was. And Timothy Dingle passed form in, I think it was February, March of 1980. 1984, we had some problems. At the end of 1984, Moors were going down to Preston Street, I think it is here in Baltimore, and they incorporated the Resurrection Moorish Science Temple of America. And that was because of the book. The book is just that, a book. The name is just that, a name of the organization of Resurrection Moorish Science Temple of America. But Mo, when I became who I am today, when I took leadership of that particular body, I dispelled that. I voided that Resurrection Moorish Science Temple of America, because that is not what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali did not bring the resurrection, the supreme grand resurrection, anything outside of what's on our authority, for which is the Moorish Science Temple of America. So yes, it was here, but it hasn't been here since 80, I'm gonna have to say 86, 87, 88. One of those years, you know, it stopped. Say it again, Mo. 97, 90. That's when it stopped, Mo.
See, that's groundbreaking because that's really groundbreaking, and this would makes of a good conversation as well as a good interview, because now we get into the heart of the matter. So let's go back just a little bit more. How did Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, Noble Drew Ali, get established in the Moorish Science Temple of America? You know, how did he come into the Moorish Science Temple of America? If you can give us a little brief of his history.
Mo, Timothy, when you think about Timothy Dingle, you got to look at 2 chapters in the Holy Quran. The first chapter is the insufficiency of knowledge, where he says he put aside all terror, he entered in boldly, and there he remained forever. You got to look at him that way. The second one is when he said that man man doesn't want the truth, but when it's for him, he won't apprehend it. He'll be offended at it. Because Mo, he just like I'm not scared of you and you're not scared of me, and neither one of us is scared of the next man. That's how he went, Mo. And he went and he learned as well as taught. And as a result of this, people begin to exalt him, people begin to recognize him, people begin to put him in the place that he should be, that he can help Moorish Science Temple of America. That is how Timothy Dingle got established in the state of Maryland as the Moorish Science Temple of America, because he was a Moor. He mastered Moorish science degree. Everything that we see, the Quran, the Resurrection Book, the Divine Constitution, this man mastered. He didn't just open this book up and read this stuff and recite it like a parrot. He actually demonstrated. He actually knew how to bring it to life. And this is how he became recognized in the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Prior to him being recognized to Maryland, was he a member of a temple, as just a lay person, a lay member, or something like that?
Yes, sir, Mo. Under his brother, Timothy Dingle, Richardson Dingle, he was a lay member, Mo. Under the reincarnated prophet, he was a lay member. He spent 5 years with the reincarnated prophet, John Gibbons Hill, that demonstrated the past form in 45. Timothy Dingle came in the movement in 1940. And as a result of him coming into the movement, he simply demonstrated Mo, and the worst part about it, or the grandest part about it, is that he accepted all challenges, Mo.
Absolutely.
He accepted all challenges. Like you made a call for the challenge about the, I've seen
the grand bodies.
Yeah, Mo. Yes. He accepted the challenge. And as a result of accepting the challenge, again, people begin to recognize who he was. So Richardson Dingle is the member. He was the Grand Sheik. Then there was F. Turner Ill here in Baltimore. That was the Grand Sheik. Then you had a brother named Irvin Brown Ill. That was the Grand Sheik. Then you had several that he came up under.
Okay.
But he stood on his feet in 1953.
But what was all of these different administrations?
No, they weren't.
Or were they all working together?
Well, they all worked together, but again, behind the various doors.
Okay.
Because the members were tearing this apart.
Yeah, the reason why I say that, because and those that is watching that have been paying attention to social media. I just did the pay-per-view actually. Where did all these grand bodies come from? And in there I mentioned, I don't touch too hard on F. Turner L. Nor do I touch too hard on. It's actually a brief of each one. I don't even go that deep in.
Well, I can go.
And so with that being said, I just want the people to understand that, okay, Timothy Dingle, he came under the reincarnated prophet. And then after that, was he a member of F. Turner L. Administration, or he just intermingled with them?
They more or less intermingled, Mo.
Okay.
But there is the such thing in the Moorish Science Temple of America that is the AC of the MST of A. Mm-hmm. And that is where a lot of them sat at that time, trying to put this thing together. And as a result, they came. I know about it because I've sat in them. And you wouldn't find a lot of these older Moors in Temple, but you find them in those very closed meetings because they wanted to give people the, first of all, the opportunity, the chance to get this stuff undefiled. Right. They wanted fresh minds, and they would sit there and they would get these lessons, and when they came out, they were given to people that were going to do the job. And but like so much, and hope you know. I know you're probably getting into copyright, and
we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a little bit.
But let me just go a little further step, jump into that. This is one of the reasons why Timothy Dingle had to copyright the movie, because of the lessons that were being put down behind closed doors, that these Moors were able to see the future. They didn't just talk about the future. They actually saw where the Prophet Noble Drew says that these things were going to take place in these times. These men were watchmen. They actually were able to see the thing that were coming down the pike. And as a result, they would pull you aside, pull me aside, and they would teach us and ask you 3 questions. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because this is what's coming down the pike. Now, they couldn't bring somebody that's got 1 foot on this side and 1 foot on that side, straggling on the fence, not realizing that they're snared. They can't go this way or that way. And as a result, they had to do things behind closed doors. They had to do things secretly. And we know this from the great lesson of Jesus when he said that there were only a few devoted souls that preserved this. When the Israelites went into slavery, there were only a few devoted souls that were able to preserve this stuff. So when the people did come out of slavery, the people did come out of bondage, that they would have these lessons with them. And these are those men: Timothy Dingle, Richardson Dingle, R. German Bay, F. Turner Hill, I. Brown Hill, and a few others right here in Baltimore that preserved these laws, that to the point that when you woke up, when I woke up, they could give them to you. Because one of the things that I treasure this man for is protecting me. In my youth, in the Moorish scientific America, I came in '68 and I saw all the things that are going on today, but I didn't see them because I'm in love with all the gospel. I'm in love with everything that these Moors are saying. My head is way up here, my feet are off the ground, everything. So I don't see none of these things. But when I went into leadership and I saw these things, then I realized all that they had preserved for you and for me for this very day.
Was Timothy Dingle ever a member of Moorish Science Temple of America Grand Major Temple 957th Street?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He was a member. Did he climb through the ranks of any leadership or officer position?
No, because this is 1972, 72, 3, 4, somewhere along in there, okay? This is when he was penalized for something that he had demonstrated, for which he has in his book, The Resurrection, Moorish Scientific of America. He was penalized, so he was never able to exalt to the titles, positions in that particular order. All he could do is get established as a temple, as a grand sheik, and he was satisfied with that. But after he resurrected, after he put down a resurrection degree and he came from out of that, because people thought that he was going to descend. They thought that he was going to descend to evil and meanness and started persecuting and started sending us out there to battle with them more. And that wasn't the case. When he I came out, when he resurrected, he was just, he resurrected powerful. Because all the people that had persecuted him had stopped functioning, had stopped going in the Moorish side. They just weren't there to hinder him. So he was able to teach.
Are you able to go into a little bit about what that persecution was about? Maybe just touch on it just a little bit.
I'll touch on it just a
without
very...
peeling the scab to bleed it.
Well, that persecution, first of all, was ignited through jealousy, envy, malice, and the worst of them all, vanity and ego. When this man started receiving titles, when he started, for example, challenging you, for example, coming out the Quran, your challenge degree is in the Quran, and he challenged you, for example.
Well, you know, I love that degree. Islam.
And as a result, he challenged you, and he beat you out, for example, just an example.
Absolutely.
Okay, and he beat you out, and you hand him over something. People became all for jealous mode.
Right.
Right here in Baltimore. And as a result, that persecution started from right then and there. For example, the degree of resurrection, the degree of reincarnation, the degree of Ali, the degree of, there's several other titles that they became envious and jealous of. And they started persecuting them from that point. But again, Mo, it wasn't the leaders. I was there, man. It wasn't the leaders. It was always the Indians that caused the most problem.
How did he come to the point of establishing himself as Timothy Dingle hyphenated Noble Drew Ali, or hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali?
TX 18170. That is the application for copyright protection of the Moorish Temple of America. The Holy Quran, the book we read out every Friday, was being altered. Had it not been for Timothy Dingle, the way things are going, even right now, right this very day, we probably be sitting up in here talking about the Holy Quran or the Christian Masonic United Methodist Church of America.
So just to jump in real quick. So somebody was altering the Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of America?
The prophet says, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. Well, half our people couldn't read.
Right.
And as a result of not knowing how to read, they easily got up there and pronounced a word, didn't say a word, didn't demonstrate a word, and not to mention how they how they're altering all the lessons that we have today. Because there was a movement that was set aside that people were claiming they had made their own, a movement aside from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. There is a movement, a major movement in the Moorish Temple of America that is going, if to look at it, you would think that it was Moorish Temple of America. But if you look closer with a stethoscope or microscope, you'll see that something is missing. A cylinder is not missing. A level is not being attained. And as a result, it just looks like the Moorish Temple of America.
So when Timothy Dingle obtains the title hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali, is that a degree that he's demonstrating, or is he saying that I am Noble Drew Ali?
Title name, Mo, let me just say this, please. Can I say this?
Absolutely,
Mo.
See, what we want to do is we want to inform our people, as to what is being said, because, social media in this day and time would have your story, my story, Timothy Dingle's story misrepresented and misinterpreted, because you are representative of these sciences that the public is maybe not be familiar with. The floor is yours,
Mo,
brother.
Please, I'm just going to ask you, Mo, not to be offended at my answer.
No.
And the answer to your question that does Timothy Dingle think that he is Noble Drew Ali, or is just a name? And this is the answer to that question, Mo. This right here, as we all know, is a picture of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And this right here is a picture of Timothy Dingle. So he could not possibly be saying that he is the Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Islam. So I'm glad. I'm actually smiling because some of this stuff that we see now in media, social media, and whatever, you would have people would try to ride off the idea, try to ride the thought that Timothy Dingle is saying that I am Prophet Noble Drew.
Well, these are title names.
Right.
The Resurrection book itself, the book that Timothy Dingle is the author of, he says it himself. Be yourself, not somebody else. We know that our prophet was a Capricorn, and we also know that Timothy Dingle was a Taurus. So that Taurus could not possibly be that Capricorn, nor could they may have the elements in them. If we study the horoscope, we might have the elements there, but a Capricorn cannot be a Taurus cannot be a Capricorn, and vice versa. So he had to be himself, and he came the way that he came, as a Taurus, as who he is, demonstrating his degree, because the world needed what it was that he had. It needed his character for what he did, as far as I'm concerned, and the world is going to get to see the same thing.
So with that title on back of his name, what is the public to see that as he is? Would that mean he's extending the work, or what does that mean to the public? When the public see it, unsuspecting public say, okay, that's Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and then they see a name, Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Drew Ali. What is that for the public to take in?
The Resurrection book itself says that he is a son. He and his father are one. He is simply saying that he and Noble Drew Ali is his father, and he is his son. A father is going to name his son. A son is going to take on the name of his father. And his name is Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Noble Drew Ali. Not that he is Noble Drew Ali, but he is a son of Noble Drew Ali. And this is what the world needs to see: a son. Someone, because we read in the record where that several sons were sent to do a job, and they killed them all. But only a son can do the work that the father has done. Only my son, your son, only our son can do the work that we were called to do, to further the work that we were called to do. And I think that's what the people can see plainly. Timothy Dingle, not as a title. And the real problem with that, Grand Sheik, is this: indoctrination, programming, fear. I've learned this year, 2020, how so many people, young Moors, innocent minds, are becoming indoctrinated by authoritative or people that they view as authoritative people. And as a result, anything that I, for example, would persecute, the people under the sound of my voice would also persecute. And we can't seem to come to mind. They can't seem to come into their own mind until after they done persecuted you for liking me done persecute somebody else for liking someone else. But the public, if we would only, like the record says, everyone is seeking love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, but there's only one way. If we would but to teach these principles in our various chambers to our people, to our loved ones, to those that trust in us, it will make a great difference in the public, as the public see. When they come up on a title, Grand Sheik CLARENCE, Sheik CLARENCE Prather, Sheik Johnson Bey, Sheik Alexander Prather, when they come up on a title, they won't question it. They will look to see the words and the actions and the deeds that's behind this title before they go to persecute. But we're beating up people, that we're tearing them down by programming them with their vanity, with their malice, envy, and things like that. That's the biggest problem that the Moorish world has.
Is Timothy Dingle the bona fide authority on the Moorish Science Temple of America? I'm still friends with Bailey Hill. I'm like, that's my guy. I never make
Alhamdulillah.
no enemies. I see Hayes Sample Bay almost once a week.
Is that right,
Yeah,
Mom?
so I never,
Alhamdulillah.
I'm good with people. I don't make enemies, you know what I'm saying? That's just not my style. I ruffle some feathers, but I don't make no enemies. With that being said, many people ask me, where's your authority? What is your authority? I get it all the time. I'm so used to it now, and I just alley-oop it. There's nothing to me. Would Timothy Dingle be considered the authority on Moorish Science Temple of America? You know, where people have this idea or this concept that one group has a monopoly on the Moorish Science Temple of America. And if you're not associated with that one group, then you are not a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Is that a concept within the teachings of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet over Drowley?
Well,
First, have you ever heard of that concept?
oh yes, Mo, yeah.
Because you said, wow,
Yeah.
that's a true concept.
Yes, Mo. But see, the thing about that is, if let me just think a moment, Mo.
Islam. So, family, I want to thank y'all for watching Moorish World TV. Please thumbs up. Make sure you leave a comment. Always leave a comment, because the comment always helps the algorithms. And if anybody wish to question, leave your questions in the comment section so we can present them to the Grand Sheik, and we can come back and answer some of these questions at a later date. Indeed.
Mo, I'm gonna answer your question like this. I know I've said underneath for Timothy Dingle, and I've heard a lot of his lessons, a lot of things that he taught. How when he had to work out something, whether in motor vehicle administration, Social Security, the military, he always consulted with everybody. He consulted with Moors out of New York, Moors out of Chicago, of course the Moors right here in Baltimore. He always consulted with them. And as a result, he would always get at least 7 acknowledged sheiks, grand sheiks, to help him in his endeavors. At least 7. There was 7, not 6. At least 7. He would always, and a couple times it boiled down to 2, 3 in support, but he never did anything on his own. Even comprising this book, you know, he consulted, because he wanted to demonstrate the 5 points of the star. He wanted to arrive at those points on the star of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So he had to cover all angles, all 5 parts of that pentagram. He had to cover all those angles to get to that one point. So no more, he wasn't the sole authority, as I am not. I have people, Dale Moores, Clifford Jackson Bay, Ward Bay, Sheik Brown here, there are all the Moors in the temple that before I do anything, I'm on the phone to them, I'm at their homes, or they're here, letting them know this is what I have on the table, this is what I'm working with. So no more, he wasn't the sole authority. But if all I gave him a thing to do, he would pray on him, or he would meditate, and he would pray before he actually executed. And he also would reach out for still more help from the people that made the 2 or 3 that may not assist him. He would grant up for help. So no more, he wasn't the sole authority. He knew that the prophet said, 7 or more sheiks for the protection of your movement, protection of your people, to get things carried out. 7 or more acknowledged, authorized sheiks.
Well, in that regard, with that in consideration, as an administration, would the Moorish Science Temple of America, under the leadership of Timothy Dingle, would that be considered the Moorish Science Temple of America as the definite article, and the other one that people that call themselves the Moorish Science Temple of America is maybe not? And I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but I just want to just keep it plain and simple that, okay, that is no longer relevant, and this is the sole foundation now?
Well, let me answer that question this way. Like I said, I've been in the movement since 1968. And as a result, I have tried a lot of things. We had a unity summit for a number of years whereby we were going all the temples. There was a great group of us. We would go to all states, temples, and try to come together as a unit to have an administration that when the prophecy that was being fulfilled about Allah said that He's going to, for us to keep the doors open, that He's going to run the people in, that we would have administration for the people. But as you very well know, and I'm going to show you do, that as Allah woke the people up, we still don't have enough temples to put all of those people in. And as a result, the people, the young people, the young Moors out there, for whom I do not blame for going the way that they're going, I don't blame them for my failings. Because if I had succeeded, if you had succeeded, if we all had succeeded in uniting these temples, and I'm gonna say 20, 25, 30 years ago, that we wouldn't have the problem that we have today. So it's because of the inefficiency of work that we did, you know, the inability of us coming together, that our people are in the condition that they're in. And with the prayers of Allah, well, we're still gonna come together. We're still gonna go, because we're gonna do it like you do. You're gonna come in here, my portion, you have courage enough to come here, my portion of truth. I'm gonna go, that Mo have enough courage to go to his portion of truth, and as a result, somewhere in the line, there's gonna be, a difference gonna be made, and we're gonna bring our people together more. That's how I would like to answer that question.
Can you break it down how Timothy Dingle establishes his authority within the Moorish paradigm? In other words, earlier you spoke about copyright, and maybe you can speak on that and maybe break that down to give people understanding of how he establishes himself in this Moorish paradigm.
Well, I think we all know, I'm quite sure you know how back during the, forgive me if I got the day wrong, back during the 40s and the 50s, communism was strong in this country. And the Moors were looked on as communists. So much to the point that they started dropping their whole first name. They would say, for example, C. Prather or T. Dingle. They would not even give their whole name. But it was Timothy Dingle and his brother Richardson Dingle demonstrating degrees of Moses and Aaron that started to go into the government, the State Department, the military department, and Social Security. They started going to the government, identifying the Moorish Science Temple of America as an organization that calculates love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in its teaching, and that the people will see us different. And this is one of the main reasons how he established his relation in this paradigm of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because he did go to the government. And not only that, he didn't go to tell on you, like the record reflect, that some of us did. He went in there to tell about how we're uplifting our people and all the things that we're doing to uplift our people. And this man got recognized from that because of that in the Moorish paradigm. And again, because of the envy, malice, ego, certain thing, it overcame. With 1980, when he passed from in 1984, the doors on Bel Air Avenue closed down. Wolves, not in sheep clothing, wolves just devoured, roaring lions just devoured everything that had to do with Timothy Dingle. And from 1984 up until, I'm gonna say about 2 or 3 years ago, this man's name was Mud.
Well, I came in 89, 90, and it was big.
Well, I mean, to those that are pure in heart, to those that, the prophet said to be pure in heart, only people pure in heart can see a degree.
Right.
Only people pure in heart can see certain things if Allah removes their veil, if Allah shows it to them. You came in 89, and Allah said, calculate your heart to be pure, a purposeful heart. And as a result, he so let you see Timothy Dingle, even though through brother Sample Bay, he still let you see the man. And as a result, you're standing here right there in his home, in his house, giving him honor. So that's a plus. No matter what is said of him, you know, the man, his name was Mud. You come out, you go through Chicago, you come through Indiana, you come through Michigan, you come through even Philadelphia. And Philadelphia is a reincarnated prophet state. You come through Wyoming, Missouri, you come through all those states, and the man's name is Mud. He wasn't known at all in New York, aside from Brother Humphrey Bray and Jeffrey L. Aside from them two masters, the name of Timothy Dingle was Mud.
Are you of the thought that authority? So this thing goes around that in the Moorish circles that authority have to come out of Chicago. Are you of the thought that authority have to come out of Chicago as to be an authorized Moorish Science Temple of America?
Mo, the way things are going now, I'm going to have to say yes, because that is our Mecca, that is our capital, and even we here, Mo, 2021, I'll let one of them, can one of them answer this
Absolutely.
question?
Absolutely.
Sheik CLARENCE, or which one of y'all, Sheik Brandy, which one of y'all want to answer this question for the Mo? What we doing in 2021? Come on.
It's not.
I always want you on camera anyway.
Oh, she brown that one.
Okay, let me hold it for you, Mo.
Okay. Top,
Let him answer this
Absolutely.
question.
top left. 2021, we're going to take the. Oh, okay.
Come on.
Okay, praise the Lord. As always. 2021, we're going to go back to Chicago with a foundation. We're going to take the annual convention back to the foundation, which is in Chicago. And from there, it's going to remain. It's going to remain, just like the Prophet Noble Ali intended it to be. Chicago, the annual convention poster says Chicago, Illinois, annual convention. That's the Prophet's work. And so that's the foundation. That's the foundation. And from that is where the authority does come. Islam.
Actually, what I'm saying is this.
And I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but that's a beautiful thing, because I run around calling myself Orthodox Moorish Science, Orthodox Islamism, and that is the orthodoxy. So I'm glad to hear that.
Well, Timothy Dingle didn't make sheiks here in Baltimore. All of his sheiks were made on 957 East 75th Street, Chicago, Illinois. Everybody that's under the sound of my voice will be going back to Chicago, be it the will of Allah, be it the will of Allah. We were going to do it this year, but apparently it wasn't this year because of the COVID. But be it the will of Allah, Grand Sheik. 2021, all my officials, all of them, every one of them, will be receiving their credentials from Chicago, Illinois. And I don't want to put the light of that in the public right now.
Praise the
but
Lord.
We can always talk
But
about
we
it.
get it.
Yeah, Mo.
We get it.
We're going to go back to Chicago, for which is the capital, for which is our Mecca. That gives us national as well as divine lessons or teaching or
Well
rights.
understood.
So, but I'm not on the same hand, Mo. I'm not persecuting anybody that has the authority otherwise, because I'm going to ask, I am asking, not going to ask, I am asking them to come along in 2021 and get the authority the proper way, because being authorized, being properly authorized makes a difference.
Absolutely.
You know, no one can take that from anybody that's got what they have the correct way. And I'm asking people every day, Mo, everybody, I don't care who they are, Mo, if you who you are, come on to Chicago and just get it right. And I'm gonna teach them the lesson. It's right in our Holy Quran of Chicago, and it's the significance of it. Because we don't recognize, we don't realize the significance of it.
Do you have any thought of those brothers and sisters that are, and I'm using the term resurrection affectionately, but those who are under the teachings of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, Noble Drew Ali, how they now may see your leadership. What I mean is that, brothers and sisters who have subscribed to the teachings of Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, Noble Drew Ali, if you will, and I've just said in the most respectful way, they subscribe to the prophet, but I'm using this Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, Noble Drew Ali, so people that don't know can understand. Those who have lived in the idea that Baltimore is the spot, it is what it is. When I was coming through, we was proud to say 3911 Bell Avenue. We was proud. And anybody that came in during that time, that was our Mecca. 39 Bell Avenue, the boy that shook the earth at will. We said all of these types of things. That's what it was. And so I would imagine that there is some brothers and sisters that may be still in that space. Do you have any idea of how you will be received as a teacher of the book, The Resurrection, after you transcend 39, or how does that work in the public? I'm trying to say some people may be.
Please.
Some people may say, well, you know what? There's no need for Chicago, 39 Bell Avenue. That's what it is. Okay. And you're saying, okay, we're moving to Chicago
okay.
as our Mecca, as the prophet said.
See again, Timothy Dingle went to Chicago.
Right.
And this is, that should.
Let me make sure you understand how some people may be stuck in a certain space, okay. And now you're saying, okay, that's what we did, and it's still fine, but we're also moving forward in Chicago, and we may have some people still stuck in the space and say there's no need for Chicago.
Well, and that's where they are going to be stuck, because there's only one way, man. And I'm not saying my way, I'm just saying my portion of that way. It's only one way that we can do this thing, man. It's through his words, his works, and his deed. If we were to let Mecca fall, if we were to let Chicago fall, what would have been the use of these fezzes that we have on? What would have been the use of us being anything? Because we have no capital. We can have a capital here, we can have a capital there, we can have a capital everywhere but where the original capital was laid. So, they can stay there, no problem, gonna love them no less, but it would be incumbent upon us all, for their children, for the welfare of their children and their prosperity, to do things the right way, to kick off that old and bring on the new mode. And Baltimore, for number one. Well, number 13, Baltimore is a blessed state. As you see, all the other states that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali went in, you see the condition that they're in. And Baltimore itself is in a devastated, chaotic state. But those states, other states that did what they did to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, they in even worse. So I'm saying that Baltimore is a spiritual state. I'm saying that Baltimore is full of life. I'm saying that a lot of masters have came, still do come to Baltimore for a lesson or two. And you can't beat them. But we got to stop this setting up everywhere. We got to just have one capital, man. Can you imagine? I know you can, but imagine every October we setting up in Chicago, Illinois, an Asiatic state. It's no greater life.
How does that work when you have the convention in Chicago and there's other conventions going on simultaneously? How does that work?
Well, we're going to ask them to prayerfully one day, if we don't get in Chicago a building for the whole membership, we at least get a building for the leaders, for the officials of those temples that would have conventions all over. That's our only problem. Instead of can't too many officials fit in here, let alone officials with members. But if we're in Chicago and we have a building for the officials, that means Grand Sheik, everybody can come as well as their members. Man, that's even more praiseworthy. But if we don't, then we'll be there for, then the officials, the Grand Sheik, will be there. And they are the ones that the members are following or listening to. So if they come out that meeting and they carry that message back of faith and hope and love to the membership, they won't necessarily have to have been there, but the message will still be the same. So I just ask the leadership, Mo, just ask the leadership. And when we go up there, there are a lot of oppositional leadership that I am talking to, and I will be talking to. And I told them, if it be the will of Allah, when Allah moved us, Allah's angel, she stopped the angel, death angel of this COVID, well, I will be up there, be it the will of Allah, and I will be knocking at the door, appealing to them.
Do you feel like that you, have you ever felt like someone may look at Sheik Clarence Prather and the body that you are, leading is separate from all of these groups that claim to be the Moorish Temple? You know, everybody, and we got to keep it real. You can't tell them that they not it.
And they ain't gonna try.
Yeah. So, have you ever felt that energy that you are not as it been oppressed upon you, that they are more legitimate than you and things like that?
Well,
and this question is good for me because I tell you, I be feeling it. But it doesn't bother me. I know the prophet, so I'm good.
Well, I know that, it's what I said earlier, Mo, that no matter what the people thinking, we have got to, and I want this to sound like a cliche. Maybe if I go into a little deeper, I'll express what I'm trying to say a little clearer. But we have got to come together, man. Because if we don't, Prophet Noble Drew always said, the wisdom of the Guatemala. Now, right to this day, right now, I know, and you know as well, we all know, that there's a place for everybody to go. And I don't want to sound harsh to your audience, but we know that our people they out there into some weird things. We know that they're alcoholics. We know that they're drugs. A lot of them ain't gonna be able to sit in your temple, Mo.
That's right.
A lot of them ain't gonna be able to sit in my temple. A lot of them ain't gonna sit in that. But we on the same hand, we got to have some place.
That's right.
Because Drew Ali came, their souls are precious in the eyesight of Allah as yours and mine. So he got to have some place for them to go. So it would be abominable for me to persecute them for saying that they're wrong, but it would also be a wrong to Allah if they would say that I'm out of order, because they are in the condition that they're in the place that they are. So there is a place for us all to go to make a difference, where we all can come and get a chance to uplift ourselves.
I'm smiling because I remember at one time I was, and this is just a sidebar conversation. I remember when I was going through my transitioning of awakening, and realized some things within the Moorish Temple of America as an ideal. One of your sheiks tapped me on the shoulder, Sheik Charles Brownell, and I said to the brother, I said, man, I can't bring my children around certain things. I can't do that. And he said, Sheik, there's a temple for everybody. He broke it all down to me. And that was a changing moment in my life. I was in Atlanta, and that was a changing moment in my life because as you see my family, I have 4 sons, plus, you know what I mean, the baby, and I'm just not taking my children anywhere. And when he told me that, it made so much sense to me, and it gave me, I was able to brush the dust off and leave stuff alone, leave where it is, and keep it moving. So that's a beautiful thing.
Sheik Charles Brown, they told us the same lesson, man.
He told me that. But I'm telling you, I was able, because I didn't want to feel that I was abandoning anybody. Again, we should be friends to mankind. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really into that. I'll ruffle some feathers, but I'm not your enemy. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, when you go around the country, as well as myself, and you go to different Moorish Science Temple of America, and some of those Moorish Science Temple of America say they visit your temple and they see the horns on the podium. Now, they may not say anything to you, but would you be able to explain that to those who are not familiar?
Well, symbols are for men of understanding. You know, they look at these bull horns and they say, I don't understand it. They can look at the very same degrees on the child, the hand press, the eye, the camel, and they don't understand those degrees either. But they will question something as opposed to something that they would recognize looking at all along. But this simply means that we are defenders of the gospel, defenders of truth. I will defend you. You are my brother. I will. That's what this represents, that I will defend you. And it passed through the AC or the MST of A back during 19, I'm going to say 62, 3, 4, 5. Okay. But it's, go ahead.
What do Timothy Dingle, hyphenated prophet, over Durali mean when he said, if I draw, you cut?
Well,
what does that mean?
That means that if you're a man, and I draw, it simply means when he was a child, he acted like a child. But when he became a man, he put away childish things. And if you say something wrong that's not right, well, he gonna tell you about it.
It's not.
It's as simple. I mean, I may have to hug you and butter up and do a whole bunch of other things, but I'm gonna tell you, Grand Sheik CLARENCE, that you're wrong. And that's what he means by that. If I draw the truth, I'm gonna cut you.
Do you believe in your heart that all these Moors and all these bodies and all these groups are gonna come together?
Yes, Lord. The future says that they're going to come together. If they don't come together, then we're sitting here talking about a man that was prophet, that was a false prophet. Because they're going to come together. We said if we don't come together, we sitting here not believing in the book of Revelation, in the Holy Bible. Because all of the, go ahead, Mom.
No, you could.
Because all of these things say that these Asiatics are going to come together. Every man is going to worship on his own nationality and on his own religion. Otherwise, he's going to perish.
When you go to Moorish Science Temple of America and we see the flags like this here, but you go to other Moorish Science Temple of Americas and they're opposite of that, what's the representation of the position of the flags here?
Matter of fact, Dr. R. Jeremy Bay in we're in Port Hill. I'm gonna say 75, 6, 7. Okay, Mo. Flag over here, American flag over here, is what history writes about. More in America. When the prophet demonstrated, it's just what he says it is. If he wanted this flag to be demonstrated that way, and the worst part about it is the origin of the flags being twisted. That's what Moors need to know. The origin of why the flag in the pictures, Prophet gives us two pictures. There she is, where's she at? The two pictures that the Prophet gives us how he wants the flags raised. Not only the law, and that's another thing people need to see, the law of everything that takes place in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Everything, all the function, how we are to function, where we from, what we do. You need to see these things, and seeing these things, bro, it'll make a difference about where you put your flag, because this is how Drew Ali says we are to heist our flag.
If you were able to see information, and for instance, like the flags, if you was able to see informational pictures to actually debunk that the flags are like that, would you be able to change it?
The thing with that is, there's a law, again, the law.
No, I'm talking about from the prophet. I'm not talking about from anybody else.
No, I'm talking about from the
Yeah.
prophet. See, Mo, we're thinking that all that we see, Prophet Noble made no mistake. He told you as a grand sheep. He told me as a sheep. He told her, he told us what he wanted done. Christina Price Bay wrote it down herself and put it into history. He told the government what, you think that he's just gonna say that he's gonna set an organization and don't tell the people what the organization is about? More, he itemized or told everything that what he was about, the purpose. And that's what the Moors need to see. That's what they're not saying. Once they see these things, they'll see what the purpose of a grand sheep, what his duties are, how he wanted his house, and this is what the record said, how he wanted his house set up. Is the way that he established it, is the way that he found it. Not the way that I think that I want it. And again, if we got to look at the origin of the one flag being on this side, and we got to look at the origin of the opposite of what the Prophet Noble drew out of the book. The origin is what we got to look at, Mo. The origin, the person, the man, the group, that was responsible for turning these flags differently. Because in the record, written by Noble Drew Ali, see, and again, we can't think that the Quran, the questionnaire, Moorish literature, and you know, because I've seen some of the pictures that you put out, that you know that there's more. That Moors need to know. That we need to come in and sit down and come into the knowledge of much, 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 much more. And as a result, we'll see that how the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wanted his house set up, be it the house on the Moorish Temple of America, the Moorish Temple of the state of Baltimore, Maryland, Moorish Temple of the state of New York, Pennsylvania. They would know, we all would know how he wanted his house set up, not customs, man. That's a custom that the Moors are going. They're accustomed to doing that because that's not the Prophet. And more, there's these records to this effect.
That's a heavy one right there. No, the reason why that's a heavy one is and I gotta say it, the picture of the first annual convention, if you're able to get a clear version, the Prophet had the flags opposite. If you have to get a clear version though, you know, it's the first annual convention flyer, the big one, the big poster. And if you're able to clear out the blurriness, the flags are not like this. And I've actually done a demonstration on that. And so my thing is I always want to just get it all the way right. All the way right.
I've seen on Facebook, I'm not sure where I saw that, but there's somebody on Facebook, and I saw about a month or so ago, there's somebody has a Moorish flag on the side and an American flag on the side. And just right in front of them, they have the American flag and the Moorish flag.
Yeah.
Well, I view that as it's not knowing. Simply not knowing. In that moment, whoever, I can't recall who it was.
Don't worry, I know.
We
can leave that alone.
Okay, all right. Mo.
But I seen it too.
Yeah, Mo, and
I've seen it too.
I mean, that's simply saying I don't know what to do.
And it's very unfortunate, and I say this not because it's very unfortunate because these are elders, brothers. These are brothers that actually taught people like myself at one point, and they were on point. And so yeah, I seen that, you know. But my thing is, I just want to get the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's teachings right. You know what I'm saying? That's my whole. Because I'd be remiss if I didn't. Sister Louise Dingle. Can you please give us? And I say this. Let me say this to the camera because the European has messed us up so bad that you know, sometimes we can slip and think that we A1 when it comes to the sister, even in my household. Sometimes I think I'm the man. I ain't the man.
Okay.
But the point that I'm making is, you know, I can get grumpy sometimes and all that, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, the sister, that's the A1. And so I'll be remiss if I didn't give some time to talk about Sister Louise Dingle, Prophetess Noble Drew Ali?
Well, number one, number, what's before one? 0?
That's right. Cipher.
Yeah, Mo. Before, that was well, she was she was a strong, great Moorish woman. To be at the back, to have it, the back of Timothy Dingle during the times that trying to bring more science into America, into Baltimore, it took a strong woman. Not only did Timothy Dingle have to go up against the Asian addicts here in Maryland, he had to go up against the Moors too. And as a result, she was there, Mo. You know, it was almost like him bringing her and his children out in the wilderness, where there's nothing but all kinds of snakes, sand snakes, tree snakes, wood snakes. Everywhere you go, there were snakes, lions, tigers. They in the complete wilderness. But that woman came all the way with him, all the way. Didn't stop along the way, didn't stop, take a break, nowhere along the way. And in 1980, when he passed form, you know, she became real, and this is for the camera, she became real hurt because the people that Timothy Dingle left in place to carry this movement, carry his movement on, to carry his thoughts on to his children. Now I'm talking about members. Well, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And from 1984, she almost passed form. That's when she actually almost passed form, in 1984, because she couldn't understand what we were doing, all that we were doing, and especially when none of it was right. And but she's a woman. She was a Virgo, September the 10th. But she had that man's back, and she had our back, because we still went up there, and we looked to her when Timothy Dingle wasn't there, and other fishers in the temple went there. We looked to her, and she always found time, Mo. You know, going through the things that she went through, and like I said earlier, how the wolves just devoured Bella Avenue, Mo. Just devoured it.
Do you feel as though that you have put the movement on your back, as we like to say, because like I've been around. You know, many people don't know I got like a rich history, and personally, me, I just stick to the Quran, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and it just works for me. You know, but do you know, since, like, I remember the hype being a member of what we would call the resurrection. I remember we couldn't wait for a challenge. We could not wait for it. And I said in front of the camera, we would even go to fisticuff. We had no problem with it. And I can see what you're saying, how it seemed to have died off, because now that you bring it back to remembrance, we talk about that bulldog. See, they don't know nothing but none of that talk. But you bring it back to remembrance, and I can see that. So now I'm looking at you as if people would see you as you just putting it on your back, and you like, yeah, we gotta move now.
Well, I mean, I'm thankful to Allah that I have a purpose in life, Mo. And that's the way I look at it. Everything I contribute, everything that I have, my life, the breath I'm sitting here breathing right now, the blessings of being in your company, and your wife and children's company, these Moors company. I count that as a blessing from Allah. And I'm going to do what it is that I have to do. I don't care what comes with me. We went through those periods where you say, you know, Timothy Dingle is your teacher, never to fight, just do what you had to do. We didn't fight, we just did what we had to do. That was all there was to it. That's the way I was brought up. That's the way I teach these Moors today. So, I mean, but, and I've pray Allah every day that He takes such things off of me. Because, and this is the more reason why I stay on this road, come what may. Because I'm going to keep it on my back. If it's there, until he can walk, until little Prince Alim can walk, until whoever's in his loins can walk, whoever's in his loins can walk, it's going to stay there till I know that they can walk on their own. Just like Timothy Dingle held my hand to the point that I can walk, till I can walk on my own. And this is, a lot was done spiritually, because like I said, he left at 80. So, but he's held my hand, because I looked to him as I looked to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I looked to the reincarnated prophet. And I'm going to keep it on him. If it crushes me, I'm going to pray Allah to give me the will, the breath, to raise back up to do whatever I have to do. If I don't have no more to do, he said, live as long as you want to live, not as long as you can, then I'm ready to fall over. I'm ready to go ahead and lay on back, because I know I have done. He said he gives me life and showed it to make it a blessing. And I respect that, Mo.
Do you think in the Moorish Science Temple of America that a lot is missing? When I say from the Moorish Science Temple of America, I'm talking about an ideal. You know, a lot of what we have to go off right now is social media, and so that's what we're talking to. And as you go through social media, do you think a lot of what is needed to raise respectable, upright Moorish Americans are missing? Is missing?
Mo.
And I asked the question because many people got me mistaken. Many people don't understand, as I mentioned earlier, the great Moorish drama. I'll give you the great Moorish drama all day, but ultimately, that's just the bridge to get to this point. But when you look out in the vast beyond, some of the things that we see demonstrated on social media, it just appears to me that something must not be taught. You know, I know what my wife teach my son. I know what we go back and forth about with the lessons. I know she got 3 Qurans in the car. She only can read one at one time. I know she got 3 in the car. You know what I'm saying? So we really about this. You know what I'm saying? So do you feel that something is missing in the vast beyond for the public?
Well, yes, something is missing. And what's missing is my having to work and not be without the people. For the few years, the 13 years that Drew Ali was here, 13 or 15, one of them, he was with those Moors.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that traveled from New Jersey with him. Then they stopped, took a rest in 1926. And the ones that still traveled with him from 26 to 28, he was with them. So they knew what he was all about. I mean, this would be the Peter or the John or the James that was with him from the beginning. He called and they were from the beginning. And Jesus lived with his disciples. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah, was his disciple. I don't get it. I had to work, or I did have to work. I couldn't. You got to work. I understand that you were a home repair guy, home repair. So you got to work. And if you don't have those brothers and sisters with you, you know, they're subject to get their own idea, or be exalted, or be influenced otherwise. That's our only problem, that we're not out there. And the main reason why we're not out there because we don't have a place to send them. Can't no more than, this is only capacity for 40, 50 people right here. Then Preston Street, only capacity for about 25 or 30, you know. And so we don't have any place to get them. But if we can simply be out there with them to answer their problem, answer their question, help them to solve their problems, help them to see their problems, that they can resolve them themselves, it will make all the difference in the world. But we're not out there. So they have to come up with mindset, they have to get strength in themselves to do the work that they have to do, or they think that they have to do. But I don't fault them again, because I'm thankful to Allah, our Grand Sheik, that I'm still here. And I know we got young, strong Moors. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, look at all the energy you got.
And never ate a piece of meat in his life. Wow. Vegan, baby.
Oh. So you know you got to stay right.
Yeah.
And Mo, that's the only problem, man. We are not out there with our people. They're hungry. And like you said earlier, the media, man, it's blowing up. And you said earlier how everybody has a camera in there. Man, it's almost like it's a blessing because even though they may not be only doing that crazy stuff, they only listening to you. Because I understand that you have a large following. So they listen.
Man, it's something.
But they're listening. But they don't have any place to go. And we don't have enough people to send missionaries, to send establish up, to open up temple wherever temple need to be, because that's the only problem I see most in our young people.
Would you partner with other groups that show the aptitude, although they're not under your administration? Say like one of the groups in Chicago or something like that, to help them expand, to build. Even though they say, well, I'm really not into this, but brother, can you, we always we got the assistant brother or sister out there all the time.
Oh, Brother Grand Sheik, every second October convention, I used to take the full membership. I used to have these mothers come from Georgia, Richmond, New York, Philadelphia, wherever they were. If they were going to be here for the convention, they were going to be here, but they were going to be, I would carry them to other temples. I've been to every temple that was on the circle. I stopped a couple years ago, but every temple, I have no problem. Because I'm not somebody that think that I'm all of this. Because I know that their thoughts are just a person outside of the Lord's mind. I know that they got a portion as well as I have a portion, and I know that they're going to carry, they got ideas, and they're going to carry those things out. I'll sit with anybody, Mo. I'm not going to sit with you if you're drinking, drugging.
Right.
If you need to fight a little bit, I ain't got that in me no more, so I ain't going to say if you're fighting no more. But other than that, Mo, we can sit and talk all day long. Right. All day long. I don't have a problem.
Well, I asked that because I've experienced a few brothers would come from certain groups and I mean, I just got to put it out there. It's pretty bad that they were unable to, and I know you wouldn't leave nobody hanging like that. I bet not. I'd be upset about that. But for those who are under other administrations, how do you feel about working with them in the capacity of, whether it be from the minimum of assistance as it were, as if they don't have the things that they need, just the necessities, or even to the extended assistance of trying to get established.
Grand Sheik, I'm gonna tell you this, but I don't mean to prejudice nobody's mind. I don't mean to prejudice your audience mind about what I'm about to say. But there are a lot of groups that I have assisted. Took my membership there, raised finance for them, helped them to get beyond the point that they were, and then my name became mud. So
it sounds like we didn't walk the road.
But I'm not going to stop because I know that something I got to do, I have to do, I'm going to do. But I've been there. But I have no problem working with them because there's so many people, so many,
What is your official title?
I'm a Grand Sheik, Mo. I am. My official title is Sheik.
Okay.
Whatever I get above that is a blessing from Allah. But my official title is that I am a Sheik.
Well, in Baltimore, there's quite a few Supreme Grand Sheiks, and I mentioned Supreme Grand Sheik Prather, C. Prather. What is your understanding of Supreme Grand Sheik?
Well, Mo, I I have those titles. I have a number of titles, but you're not going to see me demonstrate any of them beyond Moorish Scientific America. When we get on that 3630, when we get on that land, when we get a governor.
Why we sound the same? I tell my members that all the time. A brother told me last week, Supreme Grand Sheik, don't you ever call me that? Not no.
I mean, you can call me that because it's mine I am, and I can represent.
But I was on the same spirit of what you're talking about. You know, like Supreme is Supreme. Let's represent that for what it is. Yeah, but carry on. You say we get the land.
Yeah, Mo. Then when we get some governors, lawyers, judge, and somebody like Sheik Brandon Jordan Hill that's running for councilman. Then Mo, I have no problem with it. Because then people will have something that they themselves can strive for aside from everything else they have. They can elevate. And in elevating, Mo, Sheik, Grand Sheik, Supreme Grand Sheik, each one of those are lessons within themselves. And I can represent, I can speak on, I can talk. Not only just expound on a title or give you a title, but I can expound on a Sheik, a Grand Sheik, as well as a Supreme Grand Sheik, what their duties are, what they're all about. And this is what makes it different. But until we get somewhere, until we can get out this mess, I'm not going to exalt myself, and I can't even talk with my brother, man. I'm not going to exalt myself, and my brother over here, man, over here is mad at me, don't want to speak to me, don't want to talk to me. Ain't gonna happen, Mo. I'm not going to put that abuse on the Prophet over Drali.
How can somebody get mad at you, though, brother? I don't get that one, brother. Now, this for real, I might be, listen, I told a brother the other day, a brother asked me because they wanted to get the demonstration, and your face was on there. And he said, Mo, you got the Grand Sheik on there, Mo. What you talking about, Mo? I said, brother, just get the video, brother.
Okay.
Just get the video. I said, brother, I'm a little bit biased. I said, because when I go 11:55, I'm at home. I said, so you reading that wrong, brother.
Wow.
And so I said, you reading that wrong, but go ahead and get the video anyway. So, what is it to get mad at you about? Let's learn a little bit about you before we wrap up. I mean, what is it about you that one could get mad at, so I cannot be mad at you?
You got to ask one of them.
You know what I mean? What is it, brother?
You got to ask one more because I'm humble until it comes to the abuse of the Prophet Noble Drali. And that's what it is. That's what can allow me more because Prince Alim.
Say Islam?
You know his name. He look up. No, you can call it. That for him, Mo. Because Satan, Mo, I used to work with the Department of Juvenile Justice. And all the previous generations before me, all of their children are dead in the system. Because people didn't do what they were supposed to do. I didn't tell you that you were wrong. You didn't tell me I was wrong. Neither one of us told him that he was wrong. Our children are in the system because of it. And I'm just not happy. But aside from more science, Mo, there's nothing else really bothers me.
Do you think a mass majority of the people will be able to come under the concept of the Moorish Science Symbol of America as taught by Timothy Dingle, hyphenated Prophet Noble Ali? Like a mass majority of our people?
Mo, I'm gonna have to say, yeah, because just like the Quran, the resurrection book is a spirit. And that spirit sweeps over the hearts and the minds of the most decadent, the most chaotic state of mind. And because like I told you earlier, I went to that park, I was thinking about the girl.
So anything that you can say to them to help,
Mo, I saw you, I think it was 2016 when you came down to the White House. I heard a lot about you. I hadn't saw you on the Facebook or YouTube, but I heard so much about you. But I saw you when you came down to the White House in 2016, 2017, when we were down there demonstrating in front of the White House. And from that point on, I'll peep at you. I never really look at you, but I kept peeping at you. And then Chief Brownell, you know, he said, Mo's a good Mo. You know, he's the way he is, that's the way he is, etc. And I said, well, Mo, I think about it. He thought about it for me, and that's why I'm here. Because you're not, you're totally, let me say this, Gracie, you're totally different from what you are, from what I see.
Hey, well, you know, Sheik Charles Brownell, he one of the only boys that'll check me for real. He the only one. He one of the only boys that'll get on the phone and say, Mo, now you know that ain't right.
Here's another one back here. He's been in the corner too, Mo. He's been in the corner too.
Yeah. Johnson Bay, we go way back. Man, it's,
well, Mo, yeah, I'm gonna say.
I just want to encourage other leaders to have this conversation.
Mo,
You know, and then they don't have to worry about me questioning their integrity.
Wow.
Because we had a conversation, and everybody know who you are and what you stand for. But when you avoid the conversation, are you hiding something? What is going on? The public need to know. The public is unstable. They need to know.
Well, I'm going to just say, come to you leaders out there. You know who you are. Give us a chance. You know, come together so we can have something to talk about other than football after Fridays and Sunday meetings. Come on.
I appreciate you more. Thank you. Islam and family, I want to thank you. This has been beautiful, and I know we're going to try to swing around and do a part 2 because I know y'all going to come with some questions. And when y'all do come with the questions, leave them in the comments section. You can also email me at taharkabay@yahoo.com or mooshworldtv@gmail.com. Family, please don't forget to leave your questions. I like to do interviews organically. So in doing interviews organically, I just come off of my experience and off the top of my head. And so I tell you what, pretty much I have a lot of experience in the Moorish side of America in some form or another. And so my questions are my questions from my experience. But if you have questions, please don't hesitate. Email me, leave them in the comment section. We'll get them to the Grand Sheik, and then we'll address it at a later date. Islam, peace and love. Islam, more.
Boys, I'm not saying the devil, the great deceiver. If you got questions, ask me. I ain't gonna fight you about your questions. I ain't gonna argue with you. I'm gonna just answer them the best of my ability. Ask your question. If you think questions ain't important, look at your questionnaire. It's all it consists of is questions, as well as your Quran. Questions. Peace. Thank you.
Peace and love. Islam. Islam.
I be that more you gon' remember, be more. I be that more you gon' remember, that town. I be that more you gon' remember, Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number. I be that more you gon' remember, LA. I be that more you gon' remember, New York. I be that more you gon' remember, Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number.